In a good place, does it sound right? Okay. Hope I don't bang it around too much. Well, first I'd like to thank everybody for their prayers. Because I'll tell you what, without the body of Christ, we're all just lone rangers sitting out there waiting to be picked off. But when you come together, it's a whole different ball game. And I like to joke around, but really, somebody asked me, "How was your week?" And I said, "Well, I probably could make Job feel like he won the lottery." But that really wasn't that bad. When the Lord walks with you through things, it's just not the same as if you're going through it alone. Okay. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil because He's with you. And we say that at funerals, but it wasn't made for funerals. It was made for somebody that's alive. When you're dead, you're not walking through no valley of death. You're dead. So, the hardest part of this week was that I couldn't be with my sister physically. There's only so much you can say to a person, but holding them, and that really, if you can impart your peace to them, okay, and if I can say this without breaking up, I don't know, but she's my baby sister. When she was born, I was maybe 6, going on 7. And my mom was, at that point in her life, sick all the time. She's one thing after another. So some of the responsibility for her fell on me, which was no problem. I loved her, and she was my little baby sister. So I was wanting to take care of her all the time anyway. But she would, when you tried to put her to sleep that night or any time, she was a little fuss budget. And she would just wouldn't go to sleep, and she'd cry, and she'd just carry on. And my mom would give her to me. I would take her upstairs to her crib, and it was one of those bassinet ones where it's up high. And back then, the wisdom was that you put a baby on its belly, so that if it threw up, it wasn't on its back. Well, then more people started breastfeeding, and you didn't have that problem. And they said, put them on their backs. And so at that point, we would put her on her stomach. And I would just take a chair and put it next to the crib and put my hand on her. That's all I would do. Wouldn't sing lullabies or nothing, just put my hand on her. And she would settle down, and then she would eventually fall asleep. And I could take my hand off. That was the test. If I took my hand off and she started fussing, then I'd have to put it back on for a while. And, when I found out what she was going through, I just wished I could be there my hand on her. Let that peace settle her down. But she's 500 miles away. But the Lord said, that shouldn't stop you. So I sat there and I put my hand on her. And, you know, that centurion knew how it worked. You can send that word clean across the globe. You can send it to the moon. And so, don't forget you have that. And when the compassion comes over you, send it to somebody. It's not just a mind game or something to make you feel good. It's something that can happen for real. And so, I think about a lot of the things that we feel safe about because of how God set things up. Okay? Were you worried about whether the sun was coming up this morning? I can go on this weather channel on my phone and it will tell me the exact minute the sun will come up tomorrow and what time to the minute it'll go down at night. This is my favorite time of year. You go, why? It's winter time. Yeah, but ever since the 22nd of December, there's a minute added on both ends of the day. Okay? So the days are getting longer. Okay? I love it. I don't like those, it getting dark at 5 o'clock. It's a slow process, but it's happening. And that's all I care about. Crazy people that love ice fishing like I used to. When the 22nd of June comes, the days start getting shorter by a minute. And their favorite saying is, we're making ice. Well, I don't want to think about that ice. But that's how the world works. And we know it. We've come to understand it. And we base a lot of our life on those things. We don't even realize we do it. But it's how would you say it? Something you can rely on, okay? Even if it's something not great, like we know winter's coming. But you can get ready for it, and some people love it. I used to love it. What I'm getting at is I want to talk some more about covenant. And covenant gives you a safety. It gives you something you can rely on, okay, or you should be able to rely on. When you stand before the preacher with your going to be husband or wife, okay, and you say certain things, you're making a covenant. You're promising that person that you're going to do these certain things. And you're going to love them and cherish them no matter what. Well, it's easy to say when you're both standing there and you're both healthy and you're both good looking and whatever. But what about when you get my age and things start falling apart and you become a burden maybe? Well, will you still love that person? if by then you haven't attached to them in a more than a physical way, okay? And the Beatles used to sing that song, "When I get older, losing my hair many years from now, will you still be sending me a Valentine, birthday greetings, bottle of wine?" When I'm 64, that was the name of the song. And it's neat to see old people that are bonded, isn't it? I like seeing that. Okay? And they kind of know everything about it, anticipate the other. They almost think like the one thing. That's what's supposed to happen. Okay? Some people just get tired of what they promised and their word's no good. And they throw the person away. Like you can. One lady I knew had 3 daughters, and she told each one of them that I'll pay for your first divorce. And guess what? Her wish came true. She even got more than that. But you have to pay for your own second and third one. When you tell people stuff like that, you're saying, we're not committing. We're holding back something, okay, in reserve. Let's make a prenuptial agreement in case this thing goes south. I don't want to lose my yacht. I don't even want to give you half of it. What are you saying to that person? I have no intention of ever, the word divorce is not in my vocabulary. No, I've been through one, but it wasn't my idea in any way, shape, or form. So much so that I was held in contempt of court and put in jail. Best thing that ever happened to me. I learned something about people in jail. They're not as bad as, there's some in there that are pretty far gone, but a lot of them are in there and they don't know how to change or that they even can. But there's a God that wants to set the captives free. And to that end, he makes these covenants that he makes with man are something so that we can hang our hat on and move along knowing the parameters, let's say, of what's expected. If you don't know there is a God and that he expects certain things and that there are covenants in place that you can come into, well, you're just going to bumble along and have a terrible time with life. But once you realize that he loves you and he has a plan, not just for you, but us. Okay, we have to start thinking more of us than just me and you individually. Okay, everybody wants to be saved. Saved for what? Saved to what? Okay. When I joined the Navy, I'm just me. Then they stick me in a barrack with a bunch of people that I don't even know. I didn't know their names. Some were white, some were black, some were Indians, some were all kind of things from all different parts of the country that all thought different. And there were still people fighting the Civil War. They were still mad about it. Okay. There's people that like to eat grits. I mean, you got all kind of thought patterns and stuff coming together in one place, and somehow they have to whip this bunch of guys into a cohesive force. Okay? And so I have to stop being me 100%, and I'm responsible for my own health and well-being, and I got to brush my own teeth and take my showers and learn, they actually have to have hygiene classes because some people don't even know about that. And if you don't take care of your body, it's going to fall apart, and now you're no use to the group. So you have an individual responsibility, but then that comes together with everybody else. And by the time your time is done in boot camp, you can march together and go and, do all kind of close order drill without bumping into each other. Most dangerous thing was when they were marching with their rifles. You got to have that thing up like this. Well, some of them guys are like the Three Stooges, they got it horizontal. You go do a turn and clonk, you get in somebody's front sight stuck in your forehead. You have to learn how to do all these things and do them right. Next thing you know, you're a unit. Okay, unit means one. E pluribus unum, from many there is one. Well, that's what the body of Christ is all about. Whole bunches of people with different thoughts and everything. When you think about Jesus just assembling 12 apostles, okay, my favorite thing to say is 3 people, you can't get them to agree to what to put on a pizza. Somebody don't like this, somebody likes that, wants that, and the other one's, Larry likes anchovies. I don't want no dead fish on my pizza. When you study the 12 apostles, you would not have picked those 12 people to be the apostles. Okay? You get at least 3 cases of sibling rivalry. Okay? You got people from different parts of the country. You got Matthew, who was a tax collector, so he's a Roman collaborator. You got Bartholomew, whose name comes from the Greek because a lot of people sucked up to the Greek culture when they were under the Greeks. Okay, they let the Greek culture permeate there. And so Bartholomew means that he was a son of Ptolemy, which was one of Alexander's generals that took over Egypt and that part of the country. So to say you were a Bar son of this guy, okay, made you align with that. And then there was Simon the Canaanite, or a zealot, okay. These were people that were so upset at the fact that they were under Roman or Greek rule at any given time, that they were terrorists. They would, if they'd had dynamite then, they'd have been blowing things up. They were always raising Cain, okay? And so he would have hated Matthew, he would have hated Bartholomew to the point of killing him. And now they're together with Jesus. And he's got to take these guys and somehow get them as one unit. And, you know, I can go through all the different apostles, you know, and you'll see that they should have never gelled. But what brought them together was Jesus. Okay? How do you explain that? He's just changes people. If we allow him to change us, he's not going to override you're the king of you. Okay? You would have to surrender your kingdom to him and let him take over. Now, not too many countries will let you do that. And each one of us is a law unto our own self if that's how we want it to be. But we would have to give up who we are and let him be the reign. You know, everybody talks about the Antichrist like he's this person over here. If you don't let him take over you, that Antichrist is sitting in you. Okay? And it's going to be revealed, according to Thessalonians. We have met the enemy, and he is us. Remember that line? I don't know if you do. And so, you know, like I said a couple of weeks ago, the first time you see the word covenant has to do with Noah's Ark. But there was other things that maybe weren't specifically designated covenants. For instance, Eve, he tells her, you're going to be saved by childbearing. So now she has this to hang on her hat on, right? Even though what he just promised her is going to take 4,000 years. Now, nobody here is 100 years old yet. And how long does it take 100 years to go by? And if you knew you were going to get something in 100 years, you'd be going, oh man. So what do you think 4,000 feels like? And so, but it's a promise. And we have to learn when God gives us a promise that it's going to happen. And so when he gives us a covenant, it's going to happen. And he made a lot of covenants with Abraham. But Abraham didn't see hardly any of them. Okay? But he went along with God, and it was accounted unto him for righteousness. He had faith that all these things are going to happen. And even though he didn't live to see them, he's gonna see them. He probably is seeing them. Just wasn't in his lifetime. And so it's hard to you know, we like, if somebody promises us something, we want to see it. We want it now. Okay? I mean, we have a hard time waiting for a filet of fish sandwich because it takes a little longer. If you order that, you're going to stand in line a little longer. So, what's that say about our patience? I need patience, and I want it now. But we have to understand the permanency of God, and then when he gives you a guarantee, it's not like I have Craftsman tools that Sears backs up. Well, where's Sears now? And I don't even know what to do if my Ginsu knives go dull. Guaranteed for life. Whose life? I don't know. But when God gives us a covenant, it's so we know where we stand with Him. I mean, if He didn't give us a covenant, I don't even know how I'd know there was a God. I was taught there was a God. I was taught a lot of things about God. And finally, I had to find out some things for myself, that He's real, and have a relationship with Him. People go, you talk to God like it's a mystery. And I go, you don't? I mean, even when things get tough, don't you say, hey, God, help me. What's the big thing on text messaging? OMG. Oh my God. Why do people call out to Him when they're in big stress? All of a sudden, He's very popular. Well, there's some covenants, and people reach out for that covenant, even though they weren't living in that covenant. It's there. And all you got to do is come under it a lot of times. You know, Dale said that one time, he goes, everybody's worried about being judged, you know, and standing before God and being judged. He said, God already did all the judgment He's going to do at the cross. That's what we had coming, and that got executed. Okay? What's that mean? That means He did everything He wanted to do. His wrath, everything was taken out on Jesus. Now all you have to do is come under it. Say, I'm accepting that in faith. And then you're out from under all that judgment. Okay? It's a hard thing for us to realize. We always think there's got to be some strings attached. Nobody gives you that great of a thing for nothing. Well, I'm sorry, but when you're talking about man to man, yep, you're right. There's always something. Nobody gives you the free lunch. There's always something they want for it. I get upset when I see these commercials that say you can get this Part C or whatever, Medicare for free or zero or almost zero or what, and you'll get money back in your Social Security check. Well, of course you will, because you're already paying some money out of your Social Security check for that Medicare. Now, if you want to go out and get a more highfalutin Medicare, we'll give you your money back because you no longer have our insurance. You're going to buy your own. And if it happens to come out to the exact same amount of money that we're giving you back, why, that's how you get it for free or almost free, depending how much. You're not getting anything. Nothing. They're giving you your money back so you can spend it at a different insurance company. But they make it sound like you're getting something, don't they? Man does not give you something without it. There's always something he wants back. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. God's not like that. And it's hard for us to understand that because the Adam nature is how that works. God is how he works. Everything God does is 180 degrees different than what we think. He loves people we don't even want to associate. Okay? That agape love transcends all barriers. All of them. And believe me, there's enough barriers, and Satan knows every one of them, and he tries to exploit them. I'm a man, you're a woman, and I got things to think about women and what are my opinions, and women got ideas about men. There's ethnic barriers, there's age barriers. I mean, you name it. There's blonde jokes. Okay. Just have a different color hair, you could be in trouble. You could like Michigan, and I could like somebody likes Ohio State. I mean, the list is endless. And every one of them, Joseph was prophesied that he was a vine by a well whose bough went over the wall. Okay? Our bough needs to go over the wall, whatever the wall is. And if you think that's easy, just because you say it doesn't mean it happens. Just like those vows you take at wedding. Just because you say it, that doesn't mean it happens. Now you got to go home and start doing those things. Okay? And the first time one of you crosses the other one, well, that first year they say it's the honeymoon, right? But then you start maybe getting irked by something. A habit they have that you don't like. Do you just throw them out on a trash heap? No. I always think where sin does abound, grace does more abound. So if they're doing something that offends you, hug them harder, I don't know. Begin to love them and start looking at. I'm always amazed at some of the talents Nancy has. And I just love them, and I love seeing them, and I love seeing her do things. I'm not an artistic person. She is. I like watching her do something, and it comes out into whatever it is, and I'm just amazed. If I try to do that, I can't do it. I don't have that talent. So I appreciate somebody else's talent to do something. So when we talk about covenant, what are we talking about? We're talking about agreements to live by. And those agreements, sometimes they're spoken, sometimes they're written, sometimes we handshake them, sometimes we have to sign something. In any case, do you plan in good faith of holding up your end of what you just agreed to? It has to come off the page into life, into reality. So everything that God ever promised has to come off the page of that Bible into us and become reality. The Word has to become flesh. Okay? It's amazing. He made one of the covenants. The word covenant is like 272 times in the Old Testament. but it's only 20 times in the New Testament. And most of them are referring to the covenants made in the Old Testament. They're still happening. They're still coming to life. And we can count on them. And, it's important that you can count on something. There's a lot of people out there that can't count on anything. Not even themselves. And God doesn't want you to live like that. He wants you to be able to know boundaries, things that you have coming to you. When you're arrested and they have to read you your rights, you should know them already. But they made the law that you have to read it because some people just don't even go to the trouble of finding out what they are. It's very plain. I have a little booklet I picked up on the way through the cash register line. They came out in 1976 because it was the bicentennial. And it was little constitutions. And I mean, it's a pamphlet this big. You could read the whole thing, the whole Constitution, and all the way up to the amendments that we had at the time, which I think was the Equal Rights Amendment. I don't know, 20 minutes, a half an hour, you could read everything. And if you really want to know the Bill of Rights, that's just 10 amendments to the Constitution. That'll take you 10 minutes. And you would know they can't just come in your house and do this, and they can't just do that. They have to have probable cause. They have to have all kind of things, warrants. And if they're violated, you can sue. Okay? So God has given us certain rights in his kingdom. All you got to do is pick up a Bible and find out what they are. It's a little more longer to read, but take your time. One of the things God promised Abraham was that he would give him all this land, to him and his posterity, okay, to his seed. It's something because that little strip of land on the map there that we call Israel, that's not all that he gave them. He said, I'm giving you everything from the river of Egypt, which is the Nile, to the Euphrates, which goes all the way over to Babylon. That's what he gave them. He wants to give us a lot more than we're willing to possess. And so they go to Egypt for 430 years, and they get pulled out of Egypt and brought on their way to a promised land. Okay? Why is it called a promised land? Because God promised it to Abraham and his seed. Land flowing with milk and honey. I mean, everything sounds right. But, so you would call that a covenant, wouldn't you? And giving all this land to your people. And you're going to have a lots of them. So we're going to have a covenant of circumcision that's going to be a token for you to understand that it's a permanent idea that I'm giving you here. Circumcision is a rather permanent operation. And so I'm telling you that I'm going to give you all this land to your people. So now he's bringing them up to give them the land, right? It's his covenant. Remember me telling you about the guy that picking up sticks on the Sabbath day? Well, they make a big thing about it being the Sabbath day because it's the law. You weren't supposed to do servile work on the Sabbath day. But that was not the point. The point was, because of the English, I always thought, probably you did too, that he was picking up sticks for firewood or something. When it talks about sticks in the Bible, it's talking about lumber. Okay? I don't know why it comes out to sticks, but it's timber, it's lumber, it's trees. This guy was going to build a house. He had enough. He wasn't going any further. Okay? And there's a whole lot of people that think that about God. They don't want to go any further. I'm good enough. This spot here is just right for me. And I'm not taking another step toward that promise. You ever heard the expression, one bad apple spoils the whole barrel? Why is that? Because whatever's wrong with that apple, whatever's rotting it, spreads. So what do? You take that rotten apple out to save the rest of them. So what'd they say? We found this guy gathering lumber. What are we going to do about that? They put him in ward, and it says, they put him in jail. See what God says. God says, take him out and stone him. Whew. Well, right off the bat you go, for picking up sticks? No, we have a deal. You're going to this promised land. Everybody. We told Pharaoh we weren't going to leave a hoof in Egypt, and now you're going to decide you want to be left? No. We're in this together. When we understand the seriousness of these covenants, that you don't just take them or leave them. Once you come under them, you're in them. And if you want out, it's going to result in death somehow at some point. Many of the really bad sins, they stoned you for, right? Wouldn't you rather be shot or hung or anything that's fast? Okay? Every one of them stones takes some more life out of you. That's what happens with sin. Your life gets stoned. It dies a little bit at a time until you finally just succumb to the whole, whatever it is, the drinking, the alcohol, the homosexual life, or whatever you want to do. It's going to kill you a piece at a time. That's the symbolism there. We don't stone people anymore for that kind of stuff. But you don't have to. It takes its toll. The average lifespan of a person right now is somewhere around 75 years, depending if you're a male, female kind of thing. But life expectancy of a homosexual is 41. They have a high rate of suicide, high rate of drug use, high rate of murder. You say, why would they murder each other? Jealousy. All these things take a toll on your life. They detract. You know, when we read in the Bible about people living 900 years, 800 years, did you ever notice that the number keeps dropping? Why? Well, man wasn't so, he learned he could sin, but he hadn't perfected it yet. And as better he got at it, the life expectancy went down. So nowadays, you know, life expectancy is dropping because of suicides, murders, that kind of thing. God doesn't want his creation to live like that. And he made an alternative. And all we have to do is submit to it. It's not that hard. It's harder to try to live that other life. And some people, when they find out, you mean there's another way of doing this? Another way of living? There's a covenant that I can come under and it will be life-changing. And my problems will still be there and still come, but now I'm equipped to deal with them. Now I'm equipped to overcome them, not just hold them at bay, but to overcome this evil. And so what God told them to do, if we would go to Numbers 15, let's see, Numbers 15 and 32. And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Sabbath day. And they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Moses and Aaron and unto all the congregation. Okay, they didn't take the law into their own hands. And they put him in ward because it was not declared what should be done to him. And the Lord said unto Moses, the man shall be surely put to death, and all the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. It's not on one person to carry out that. Everybody. And all the congregation brought him without the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died as the Lord commanded Moses. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringes of the borders a riband of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord and do them, and that ye seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go a-whoring, that ye may remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto your God. Okay, now this is a different fringe than the priest had. People think it's the same. No, the pomegranates and the bells, that's a whole nother thing. This is a common everyday guy was to do this. I am the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. That's the end of that, right? They have to put this ribbon of blue in. In the Newberry Bible, it will explain to you that ribbon of blue means completion and perfection. And it also means the mitre that the priest wore. Okay? So, the next time you see this thing is in Matthew 9, verse 20. You remember this story because the lady had an issue of blood for 12 years. She'd been to all the doctors. She did everything they said, and all they did was take her money. Okay. Behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. Okay? For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. Why would she think that? I mean, without knowing what little we know, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Why would grabbing somebody's clothes heal you? Okay? She said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. Why? She's reaching for the covenant. I want you to understand that I have this covenant with you. You think it's just a word? Do you think it's just idle promises? This is serious business. If you want to get out of this Adamic nature fiasco that you were born into, I've made a way. And in this case, this garment has this remembrance of a covenant. The priest's mitre. Okay, the priest is a go-between. He could actually cause healing to happen. There were many lepers in Israel in the time of Elisha the prophet, but only Naaman the Syrian was cleansed. Crazy, isn't it? Something like that available, and yet people didn't take advantage of it because they didn't believe it. If you go to Matthew 14 and 36. Go up to the one before that. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, that they knew Jesus came there, they sent out into all that country round about and brought unto him all that were diseased, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. And as many as touched were made perfectly whole. What do you think of that? Because God wanted the people to understand the seriousness. That's not the right word I want, but it's, I'll think of the right word. These covenants are just not words. They're promises. They're something that he is saying, this is my end of the bargain that I'm going to do for you. Everything he does for us. You know, so many people think God needs all this praise and worship and all this stuff, and like he's an egotistical guy that needs to be his ego rubbed or something. No, this is for you to understand who he is. Okay? Everything he does is for our benefit. If you think otherwise, you're letting your Adam nature define it. Okay? And so, as many as touch were made perfectly whole. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but when they had to take that man and stone him, do you think anybody knew him? I mean, you know, you could be your next door neighbor. And you have to throw a rock at him in a way that will kill him. So when that was all done, how do you think those people felt? Were they going yippee? No, they were in a state of who knows what. Emotion that, you know, it's easy to read, they stoned him, yeah. But there's a human thing going on here. How do you feel when you're done doing it? And God knew that that was going on. And he goes, now listen, I want you guys to understand something. Covenant is not just talk. It's not just written words on paper. It's not just a game. I promised your dad that I'd take you to a promised land. And we're going there. And if you don't want to go, it's going to cause you death. And this stoning is symbolic of how you're going to die. So I want you to make this ribbon of blue. I want you to have something that reminds you of who you are and of these promises. It's not just a game. This is serious. Now, when that woman reached out, what was Jesus wearing? He was wearing his garment with his ribbon of blue on it. And that ribbon of blue became an idolatrous thing too. Because if you wanted to appear to be super spiritual, why, you made a wider one. We always think bigger is better. And that's one of the things he told them they were hypocritical about. You make broad your borders. And so when you think about it, that garment, what does it do? It touches him. Okay, your clothes touch you, don't they? They take the shape of you. Like I would like this sweater to take the shape of like this, but it kind of, I'm an archbishop. So it takes the shape of you. It looks like you. And everywhere you go, it goes with you. And if you move your arms, it moves, right? When it came time to part his garments, the outer garment, they ripped it up. But this other thing didn't have any seams. And they didn't know how to take it apart without destroying it. So they left it intact, and they threw dice or whatever casting lots meant, and whoever won got the whole thing. Okay? So at that point, that garment fell to the Romans, to the Gentiles. And so now all those covenants, all those promises, all that stuff came to the Gentiles. The body of Christ cannot, there's no seams. It can't be ripped. It has to be staying in one piece. And so we are that garment. Okay? Some people have no contact with God whatsoever. They don't even know He exists or don't even want to admit He exists. But they see something in you. And they reach out to get a hold of Him through you. And so when they're grabbing that covenant. Okay? If we go to Isaiah 42, we'll start at verse 1, but then I got to jump down. Behold my servant whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him, and he shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. Okay? It's talking about Jesus, but it's also talking about the body. Okay? And if we drop down to verse, where did it go? I didn't write it down. Okay. We'll just read the whole thing. Keep going. He shall not cry nor lift up nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed shall he not break, and a smoking flax shall he not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail nor be discouraged till he have set judgment in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his law. Thus saith God the Lord, He that created the heavens and stretched them out, He that spreads forth the earth, and that which cometh out of it, He that giveth breath unto the people upon it, and spirit to them that walk therein. And this is what He says. I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness. That's us. And will hold thy hand, and will keep thee in what? Give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light unto the Gentiles. So it's not just that He makes a covenant with us, but we're going to become the covenant. We're going to become that garment with the ribbon of blue around it, that when people touch it, they come in contact with God. We're not God. We're just a pipe. We're just a wire that transmits, that causes things to flow. And I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness. Okay, go down to the next one. And what are we going to do? We're going to open the eyes. We're going to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. Okay, does that sound like Isaiah 61? Okay. And so these are the things that He's not just making us a deal. He's making us the deal. We're not just here to save our own bacon. We're here to become something that helps save bacon. Okay? I mean, think about it. Isn't that wonderful? He's not the teacher. Okay? How often do you teach a kid something, and then this kid doesn't get it? But how do you get through to him? That kid gets through to him a lot of times, don't they? You getting something here? You seeing a principle? God just doesn't. If there's somebody here that's not getting it, maybe you're the one that's going to help them get it. And if we go to Isaiah 49, we'll try verse 8. Thus saith the Lord, in an acceptable time I have heard thee, in the day of salvation have I helped thee, and I will preserve thee. Sounds like what we just read, a little bit different words, but same meanings. And give thee for a covenant of the people, to establish the earth, to cause to inherit the desolate heritages. Okay? Sounds like he wants to restore the earth. You know, when Noah got off the ark, you know what he said to him? The same thing he told Adam and Eve. Go out there and replenish and be fruitful and multiply. Let's try it again. 8 people, new beginning. We got rid of all the evil. And guess what? He made him another covenant. He said, I won't do this again. I'm going to give you this rainbow as a covenant that I'm not going to flood the earth again and wipe out everything with floods. We're going to talk more about covenant next week. But we have to understand that it's a reality. It's not just a word. God wants these things to leap off the pages. He wants them to not just be words in our mouth, but we begin to live it. You young marrieds and about to be married, this is something that you're going to see. You stood there and you made your vows, whatever they were. And now you got to go out there and live them. Okay? And the thing that will keep it going right is always going to be love. And I don't mean touchy-feely puppy love. I mean, I love you. I don't care how ugly you get. I don't care how mean you are to me. I don't care anything about you that somebody could say is wrong. My love is going to overcome that thought, that feeling, that way of doing things. If God wasn't like that with us, where would we be? I mess up, 12, 15 times a day. I don't know. Probably sometimes I mess up and I don't even know I did. And he has to make me aware. Don't do that no more. Oh, is that something wrong? Oh. So when you think about a covenant, think about that it has to, like I said, leap off the page, leap out, not just be idle words. And when you make the deal, you're making it with love. It has to be with love because it won't work any other way. It's too easy to break the deal off when things don't look the way you want them to. So, I'm all done talking now. We had an early start today.